If you look back to your last high school year, or maybe you are in your last high school year right now, you know that it's a year filled with emotion. You might feel confused, lost, and don't know what to do once you graduate. Or even if you have plan, you might still be scared and worried if the plan will work or not. And that's exactly what Atma and Raya felt when they go through their last high school year. Now, let's see what a space of the Unbound have for you. The setting of this game is really familiar for me since it takes place in Indonesia, which is why I immediately felt attached to the characters. But even if you aren't Indonesian, I'm sure that you will still be able to enjoy their touching story. Furthermore, the retro art style makes the game feels very aesthetic. Local City has that small town vibes which very cozy but also mysterious at the same time. The soundtrack used in different parts of the city really reminds me of old console cozy games. And you know what's good? The town is filled with cute cats. You can see them everywhere you go. And yes, you can pet them, you can name them. Just what else do I want, right? I'm actually glad that they use side-scroller view and pixel graphic because it makes me feel like I'm going back to the 90s era when the story happened. In this game, you will follow Atma and Raya's journey as they try to find what they truly want after graduating from high school. In the beginning, all they want to do is to complete their bucket list. But weird event keeps happening, which pushes them further and further into the darkness. As the story unfolds, you will see different struggles that each character have to endure in their life. What makes the story interesting is that their problem is presented in the form of supernatural events. I love how the game makes me analyze the event to actually understand what's really going on in that person's mind. So, if you are someone who loves a game with deeper meaning and like to analyze the meaning behind everything, then I think you will really enjoy the story. But even without deep analyzing, the story is still fun enough to follow as it is something that actually relatable to anyone. One thing to note is that the story involves sensitive topics, so make sure to read the trigger warning first before playing it. As you explore Roka City, you can talk to the characters around. I suggest you to pay attention to what they said since you will get various clues that will help you to solve your missions. New missions can also be triggered by talking to someone or picking up items, so it is important to just interact with everything that you can find. The main gameplay is very unique as it involves supernatural abilities called Space Dive. You can use this ability on people with dancing flowers above their head. Then you will be able to dive into their headspace realm. Each person have unique realm with different puzzles inside. I really like this gameplay since the puzzle actually have story related to the person. By diving into their realm, you will be able to help them coming up from their struggle. On higher level, you will be able to do cross dive, which is the ability to enter the next level of the person's realm. You see what they do here? Just like real person, the characters also have multiple layers of problems which lock away deeper in their hearts. I love how A Space for the Unbound could make use of human complex mind and present it in a way that's easy to understand while also increasing the challenge on the higher level. I think this application is something that makes the game special and different from other games in this genre. But don't worry as there are various minigames which are a little lighthearted and fun to play. For example, the aiming mechanic which used when you want to throw something. Hide and seek mechanic are used when you want to sneak out. And there's even general knowledge quiz that you need to answer at some point. Since these gameplay mechanics are all different, I feel excited playing them. There's also fighting in this game, but no worries since the fighting is not done directly. Instead, you will use speed mechanic which will test your hand reaction. And I think it's good to know even if you fail at any puzzle, fighting or minigames, you can redo it over and over again. So you don't need to feel anxious and just do it slowly, then I'm sure you'll eventually clear it. Now, should you get the game or not? I think you will be able to enjoy this game if you love deep and meaningful story. The game takes place in the 90s, so for some of you it might be something that's old and foreign. But the story itself is about people who are struggling with themselves, whether it's because of their past, their relationship, or just facing their true self. I think those are the things that anyone can relate to, so I think you will be able to feel connected in one way or another to the characters. And I think it is also very interesting to see how people learn to overcome their problems and break free from their struggle. There are a lot of things that you can learn through this game. But if you are someone that doesn't like complex story, then maybe you won't be able to fully enjoy the game. The main focus of A Space for the Unbound is the story, which very deep and meaningful. And if you analyze it further, it can bring out different emotion. But even if you don't play it for that reason, the game itself is still filled with unique gameplay. So even if you don't want to play it for the story, which I think you will be missing out if you don't, it is still a fun game. Still, if you think that this game is triggering, then feel free to skip the game. For me personally, I think this game brings a lot of nostalgia. There are a lot of Easter eggs inside the game that you will only know if you live in the era. For example, collecting Buttercup and the Bubblegum Words. They are all inspired by real events that happened in the 90s. Because of the background, I also feel really attached to the characters. I get wow every time I realize the real meaning behind an event, which happened a lot in this game. A Space for the Unbound really brings out a lot of emotion, but since the environment is very calming, it's still cozy enough for me. And if you want another cozy game with touching storyline, then you might want to check my Wildflower review.